We've been retired for 7 years now, and we have made our fair share of retirement mistakes.
Today, we're going to share brutally honest lessons we really wish someone told us before we retired. Stay tuned, and you'll get a jump ahead.
Now, when we retired, we thought we had it all figured out. We've been thinking about it for years. We'd saved enough money. The timing was right. We were both in the prime of our lives. We had decided to leave at the same time on the same day, and we knew it was going to be amazing until it wasn't amazing. And, it was weird because we had the money, we had a plan, but it didn't really work out the way we wanted it to.
I agree. And I think that what happened to us was we really bought into the societal, the marketing, the advertising ads around retirement. We pictured ourselves on beaches and, climbing mountains and, holding hands and drinking pina coladas. And although you never liked a pina colada. So
no, but I liked holding hands.
Maybe a beer for you and a pina colada for me. But we really envisioned this kind of every day is a Saturday and no obligations. And we found that really fell flat and hit us hard.
And that's the first point we want to talk about is retirement is not an endless vacation. It's actually a mirror. And when I say mirror, I remember when I leave the house in the morning, all the houses we've had, we always had a mirror at the front door. So you could just take one last look at yourself before you scooted out to work. We all put together right.
I didn't know you used that mirror. I thought it was a lipstick mirror.
I don't wear lipstick.
No, but you used it too?
Sure I did.
Oh, I always thought it was my lipstick mirror. I
look myself in the eye and say, you got this today. You're going to sell a lot of insurance. You're going to lead some good team meetings, and you're going to be great.
You're like that Saturday Night Live guy that would kind of look and talk to himself in the mirror.
That's me.
Okay.
Well, now I get up and I look in the mirror. I mean, now, when we first retired, I leave in the house going, what are you going to do today? You look like you're starting to get old. You don't have any plans for the day. Where are you going to go? Jody's off with the girls doing something. What am I going to do? So there is this mirror of regret, anxiety,
confusion.
And I think that a vacation is great for a long weekend, a week, or 2 weeks even. But I was staring in the mirror at a guy who was on vacation for the rest of his life, and that wasn't working. And I think that was the biggest mistake we probably made, is we fell into the lies that people tell you that it's every day is a Saturday, that's great, you're going to love it. Well, I didn't.
Well, I think using this mirror as a metaphor, it's really the idea that no matter how you planned with your finances, no matter where you are on the scale of financial security, the mirror metaphor really is, who are you now that you're not the CEO of a company, or you're not a senior executive, or you're not a school teacher, or you're not a lawyer, or you're not a doctor, or you're not a plumber, or you're not an electrician, or you're not a police officer, whatever your career was. This mirror metaphor really is us kind of shaking you to say, wake up and figure out who you are, either before or early stages of retirement, so that you don't start wasting time.
You like my metaphor.
I did. I
surprised you with that.
I was originally thinking you literally stopped at the mirror every day.
I do.
Oh.
We'll film that sometime. But now I've got a plan. I go to the gym. We're going to shoot video today. I'm going to have breakfast with a friend of mine. I'm going to go play golf. But I got things. I have a schedule now. And I know who I am. I'm different than I was. I'm no longer Mark Rollins, the CEO of the Rollins Agency. Right. That was 8 years ago, 7 years ago.
Right.
So I do find this really helpful. By the way, the first link below is a free download, 6 steps to kickstart your retirement. So watch that next. Download that. Don't watch it. Download it and read it. It's really a helpful tool to get you jumpstart in your retirement.
The second point we wanted to talk about today really hits home with me, and it is that health is the currency of retirement. It's not actually your financial statements, your investment accounts, your portfolio, or what's happening in the stock market. Your health is the currency of your retirement. We made a lot of mistakes in the beginning of our retirement, not focusing in on our health and wellness, and literally thinking we were on a perpetual vacation. And I'm a big fan of vacation. I'm a big fan of beach vacations. I'm a big fan of an Aperol Spritz every now and then. But you can't do that every day in your life and expect to keep this currency of health at a level that you need.
So if you're retired or thinking of retirement, I'm quite confident that you're looking at your finances and you've got a financial planner, hopefully. If not, you kind of have a sense on how much money you have, how much you can spend, and maybe how long it'll last. Okay, but what about your health? Do you spend any time looking at that as a piece of currency? Probably not, or maybe not, but here's what you need to do. First of all, you need to assess where you are right now. So you need to see all your doctors, your GP, if you have heart issues, your heart doctor, your dentist, maybe you need a therapist, whatever. You've got to have all of your ducks in a row to figure out, where am I at now? And then you need to build a plan around getting healthier. There's a lot of talk now about lifespan. So 100 years ago, if you were born for a male, your life expectation was 45. Today, I think it's 80. 10 years from now, it could be 100. 50% of babies born today are going to live to be 100. So lifespan is continual. What about health span? That's the quality of life that you live, particularly near the end of your life, the last 10 years. And the only way you're going to have health span is by starting with the doctor and then doing an assessment and figure out what you need to work on.
Well, I think, under this idea that health is your currency, I think you need to think, if you have all the money and all the time and all the freedom in the world, but you don't have your health, those three things don't matter anymore. You need to take control of your health and wellness. It should be your single greatest priority in retirement, because, money's not going to buy you out of a deep-hearted sickness. We've got, a son with stage 4 colon cancer, and all the money in the world can't buy him out of cancer. So what we're saying to you today is that you need to own that. You need to own your health and wellness. I was out walking the other night. Mark was out of town, and I ran into a neighbor who had just done a New York City race. And she said to me, "Oh my gosh, I have realized I really need to get myself moving. I really need to get into better shape." And I was so touched by her sincerity around what she needed to do to get herself into better shape in the coming years.
So instead of thinking about how much money you have, start thinking about what your health looks like. But the next thing to talk about really has to do with money again, is that money is not going to buy you meaning. Now, money will buy you stuff and things, and there will be some short-lived happiness when you buy stuff and things, but it's not going to buy you meaning. Meaning and purpose were what you had during your career, when you were raising your kids, when you were maybe volunteering or coaching Little League, whatever it was, that gave you meaning beyond just living through your day. Money is not going to buy that for you in this stage of life.
And I think it's important to note that, money can't really even stop boredom, right? It can help you find yourself in different places to regenerate your excitement. But you have to do that. The person has to do that. The money can't really do that. The money can help you open the doors, but it really can't do that. It also can't prevent disconnection from key relationships. All the money in the world can't, bring that old friend back, or can't bring one of your children back into your space. You need to do that. And, we're in the middle of a 8-week masterclass, first time we've ever run it this fall. And it's interesting to hear how people are responding to this idea that, retirement is on you. I mean, you are making choices. So money won't buy you meaning. It won't buy you relationships. It won't buy you health. It won't buy you wellness. It might buy you excitement. I can get front row seats to my best concert in the world. Short-lived.
There is a particular person in our masterclass who's been a teacher for 38 years. And we find this a lot with teachers. If you spent your career as a teacher, you're really good at that, right? The older you get, the better you get at it and the more demand. You know, if you look at colleges, the older teachers have better grades, better reports, better reviews. The older ones do because they have more experience and more stories they can tell. So you're 68 years old, you retire as a teacher, and you're like, what do I do now? Well, the first thing you want to do is maybe get away from teaching. But there's a guy in our masterclass who wants to get away from teaching. But after only being in it for 4 weeks, he's thinking, you know what? It's not that I want to get away from teaching because I love teaching. I need to teach something different.
Right.
He's actually thinking of becoming a retirement coach. So it's this idea that he has money, he can travel, he can do anything he wants to do, but that's not buying him the meaning that he's looking for.
Yep. The next point is relationships in your life during this phase will either deepen or crack wide open. And again, that is up to you. You know, retirement can magnify the state of your marriage. It can magnify the connection or lack of connection you have with your community. It can magnify small things that have happened over the years, perhaps with your children or your grandchildren or nieces and nephews. It can really hurt, or it can be the best opportunity you have to make your relationships better.
So 2 things I want to talk about. First is our marriage. So our marriage easily could have dissolved in this retirement phase. It was a rough start. And we read a lot about it. We talked to each other a lot. We actually got some therapy and realized that we need to have really good open communication to deepen our relationship. You know, you're married for 14 years, you had careers and kids and all that, and you think, okay, retirement's going to be great. We'll have to spend more time together. Things will naturally get better. No, it takes intention. So that's the first thing that I want you to think about is your primary relationship with that person that means the most to you. The second thing for me as a guy, as a man, I would give myself a grade of, out of 1 being the lowest, 10 being the best, I'd give myself a 5 up until now about how I'm doing creating new community, new guy friends. And that, I'm all over that now. And that's a brutally honest mistake that I made. I didn't focus on that. I always had guy friends at work, you know, and then when I left, they didn't really come along, but I said, I'm fine, till I'm not fine. Now I'm really doing a lot of work writing down the names of all of the men that I know that mean something to me. And we just covered that in our masterclass last week with this sheet where you write down the person's name, how long you've known them, what's the primary thought when you spend time with them, and you know what you love about being with them. And all of a sudden now I've got a huge list of people I can reach out to set up a monthly Zoom call, whatever it might be. But I screwed that up big time.
Yeah, and I think it's always good to course correct during this phase of life. You're not going to get everything right. But I think by you realizing and understanding that these connections are meaningful to you. And, you know, I've done a similar thing. I'm actually pretty good at creating new community, pretty good about putting myself out in very uncomfortable situations and sticking my hand out and saying who I am, but I'm an extrovert and it comes relatively easy for me. What I think I have focused on in the past couple of years is being intentional about the people that I want to make sure are in my life from now moving forward to the very end. And to the very end is a really powerful statement. Like, I really want these people in my life to the very end. And that's going to take a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of focus, a lot of compromise. And I'm willing to do that for my core folks.
Cool. So here's the 5th thing we want to talk about, a brutally honest mistake. We thought legacy was about leaving something behind. Leaving something for the kids, donating to charities and all of that. And that's, I guess, a small part of it. But we retired 7 years ago, and I'm 68. I know I'm going to live to 90, if not 100. That's a long time. So Do we wait until we die, until we leave some money behind for legacy? No, we got it wrong. Legacy isn't about what you leave. It's about how you live your life. What are your values? What is your purpose? How can you give back to society? That's what people will remember. You know, we talk about when we retired 7 years ago, had we passed away, God forbid, you know, there's the tombstone, the year you were born and the year that you die. And the dash in the middle is everything that you've done. So we had full resumes, so to speak. A great obituary could have been written back then. I think there's a better one that can be written now because of all of the new things that we're doing. But if you just take retirement as coasting through life, every day's a Saturday, relaxing and everything else, by the time you pass away at 80 or 90, people are like, well, yeah, he used to be an insurance guy, I think. No, now we're building the legacy that we want to leave behind, the examples we want to set for our children and our grandchildren. And that's really important to us now.
Yeah. And I think it's important to note that, you know, a lot of people hear the word legacy and they think that it only means financial legacy. You know, like, were you a Ford, a Kennedy, you know, can you leave big things to the world, to your community? You know, sometimes the legacy really to the people that mean the most to you are the little things. I have this honey that I love, and it's a Manuka honey from New Zealand, and it's got good anti-inflammatory properties, all the things. And my girls this summer, you know, they would go to make a cup of tea, and they're like, oh, what's this honey? And at first I was kind of like, oh, that's my special honey. But I talked to them about some of the healing properties that are in this honey. And now every month I ship them each this little bottle of honey. And I was talking to one of my daughters this morning, and she's like, oh my gosh, I just got my honey shipment. And it's like you're giving me a hug every morning when I put that in my tea or coffee. And I was like, you know what? That's legacy too.
Yeah.
That kindness is legacy too. And it's a jar of honey.
You want to think about the things that people will say at your funeral about you. How did you live your life? What do people remember about who you were to them when you were alive?
And did you live with intention?
Yeah.
You know, did you intentionally connect with people? Did you intentionally go the extra mile? Did you intentionally send them honey every month? I mean, again, not a heavy lift, but, you know, it's something that they look forward to. And when they take that sip of tea or coffee, I don't know, my one daughter loves honey in her coffee, kind of different. But when they take that sip, it's kind of like, mom sent that to me. And I love that.
Yeah. Being intentional about everything that you do going forward is going to make a huge difference to your legacy.
These are things we really wish we knew when we started this.
Yep. Let's take a look at some questions our team put together. All right. Hi, I'm Susan. I'm 65. I'm just starting retirement and already feel restless. How do you create purpose quickly?
Routine. I would say, you know, start doing things that make a difference to you, that create intentionality in your day, and, you know, replicate. And when it stops working, try something else.
Yeah. Purpose is, it's interesting. In our masterclass 2 weeks from now, as we talk about purpose and contribution, what is your purpose? And this coming week, we're thinking about growth and discovery. So we have this great checklist people can go through, and you can download something from the internet, but take a look at values, a list of 30 values, and circle them and start to think, what are the 5 most important values in my life? And then think about a group of people that you think you really care about, seniors, kids, whatever, and find an organization.
It doesn't only have to be people.
Could be a
animals.
disease, animals, animals, disease. But start thinking about connecting with an organization that serves that community. And maybe you answer the phone for them. You volunteer in a way. It could be simple, but just to give you a reason to get up in the morning, to get out of bed, and to maybe get in the car or jump on your computer and do some extra work.
That's great.
Okay. This is George. My wife and I argue more now than we did when we worked. How do you reset your relationship? You know, what happened to us, I believe, is that when we retired and slipped into this bad habit of not really structure or anything else, the magnifying glass came out. Like, Jody, why are you doing things this way? Well, why don't you do it this way? And you'd say the same thing about me. And all of a sudden now we're picking on each other because we're finding fault, probably because we're spending too much time paying attention to what the other person's doing versus minding your own business and having some purpose and value in the world. And if you are arguing with your spouse a lot more, then it's a good time to kind of reset, sit down one day and say, hey, let's talk about our life together. Let's talk about the 5 things we love about each other and focus on that.
And I would say we introduced into our life the Love Language book by Gary Chapman.
Oh, yeah.
And, we were both doers. So, during your career, if the grocery shopping needs to be done or the trash needs to go out or the dog needs to be walked or the, kids need to be fed or, all the list of to-dos would kind of pile up, and it was just catch as catch can, just get it done. And we started to look at the love languages and acts of service, where does that fall and what can I do? What's the division of labor in the house now? What's going to be important for us to carve out time. I think when you have so much time with your partner or spouse, you don't carve out intentional time for you to really do stuff that you both love to do. And then conversely, you also need to allow each of you to do things that the other person doesn't want to do, but that, you find joy in. I love going to concerts. I love live music. I love plays. You could ask me to go to anything live, a cricket match down the street, a high school football game that I don't even know the 2 teams, but, I see 2 teams of young athletes playing hard. I love it. Mark doesn't like any of that.
No.
And so I find an outlet. I find girlfriends, or I find my children, or I, get involved in different community projects where I can do those things on my own and then bring all that energy back into the marriage. So the marriage didn't create the energy, but I went and found it and brought it back. So I think there's a lot you can do, but just because you have more time doesn't mean it's better time.
And I think another tool that we use is that we don't limit the time we're together, but we do things together. We have some hobbies together. We go to the gym together, but we also do things on our own. So Jody goes this way and does things with her friends. I go this way and do things with my friend. Then when we come back together, we share what we learned or what we've heard or what we talked about. So finding some time apart from each other is just as important as figuring out how to get along together.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. I'm Carol. I'm 67. I saved money, but I feel lonely. How do you rebuild community from scratch? Well, I struggle with that. I just mentioned in this video about how I got that wrong. But start making a list of all the people in your life, old work people, people who mentored you during your career or mentored you years ago, your friends, your acquaintances, your family, and start to make this list. And all of a sudden you'll realize that, I do have some existing friends that I can deepen the relationship. And then like Jody, who's really good at this, you've just got to be intentional about finding new friends, new community, whether it's going to a gym class, whether it's volunteering, whether it's church, some kind of religious group, Bible study, book clubs. You got to put yourself out there. There's a woman in our masterclass right now that she's a vegan. She now is hosting vegan dinners once a week. I think she found people on Facebook maybe in her community. I mean, you could do anything like that, but it takes intention.
Well, I also think you have to be to kind of drop this idea that you're afraid to fail. I have a friend who lives about 45 minutes north of here, and Netflix is building a big production center here in New Jersey. And she said, I was an accountant my whole life, and I built a business, and I'm trying to look for things to do. Tomorrow I'm going to Orange Theory for the first time, Jim. I'm going to give it a shot. I don't know how well I'll do. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply to be a golf cart driver at the new Netflix facility in New Jersey. And
that's awesome.
And I said, a golf cart driver. She said, you know what? I don't want to do anything with numbers. I don't want to do a nonprofit's financial. But I like film, and I wouldn't mind driving a star from, cabin 1 to cabin 3. And, they're going to need all these random jobs up there. And she sees it as a real opportunity to try things completely different. So the point is, you have to try things and then not be afraid to fail. Failure at this stage of the game is just you giving yourself another opportunity to try something else new. So it's not failure like, oh my God, I failed, I'm going to lose my job. You're not going to fail. You're not going to lose your job. You don't have a job. You could fail. She might hate Orange Theory this morning. She said she'd text me and let me know, but she's going to try it. And I think that's the courage that you need.
Yeah, that's so cool. Hey, I hope you liked this video. Watch this one next. 9 things you should never tell anyone. How to protect your peace. We talk a lot about sharing. Maybe sometimes I overshare, but here's 9 things that you really shouldn't share with anybody. So watch this next.